Focus today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and just perfect timing to have back with somebody that I have high regard for, Richard C. Lyons. He's a world historian, third-generation printer who has been involved in publishing for quite a while, television production throughout his professional career, and he's the author of a trilogy on the American government, with the latest in the third volume entitled Passage Through the Shadows. And there's a picture of the cover of that book on the screen. There's a series of these now, number 3, so you may want to check that out, a trilogy. And then he does have a website, richardclyons.com, and there is the picture of the landing page and a lot going on there. Brother Richard, good to see you, friend. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, great to see you again, Perry.
Thank you. Wow. What'd you think of that UN speech from the president yesterday?
I thought it was spot on. I thought it was really spot on.
Has the UN ever received a speech like that before?
No, it's normally grandstanding and looking forward to the cocktail party after. And, you know, what he said with regard to the UN financing wars instead of ending them, that could not be more true with regard to the Middle East, as we have seen, you and I, for decades. Because all the money that they put in for humanitarian so-called aid goes to fund weapons.
Okay, so does it go anywhere?
I'm not sure. I think we're at an inflection point, Perry, in my view, between the nation-state idea and Trump's idea of America first and the globalist view. Whereby that's more the Brussels view of the EU, where it's a massive bureaucracy, a technocracy, and pretty much people have to do what they're told.
The globalists were also taken on by his speech when it came to climate change. He was very direct about that, yes. And yes. Pointed out examples, and especially he took on wind energy. He took on what it cost. I mean, it was Trumpism at its best. But the point being is, he really went after the globalists yesterday, and it seems to be having some little bit of an impact. What do you think?
Well, I think, you know, the whole green energy thing was another advance of socialism, Perry, in my view. Within the United States, it was a massive amount of taxation for the redistribution of wealth from red states to blue states, from private companies to those advanced by the government. And so again, if you look at it globally, it's just another means of a massive bureaucracy, first funding itself, and then funding regulation, and then funding redistribution. It's socialism on steroids.
I asked this only out of curiosity because there's more coming out on it today. It seems to be highly unusual, if I can put it that way, Richard, that he ran into so many technical bumps getting to the stage. He walks on the escalator. The moment he and his wife step on the escalator, it stops. The moment he steps to the podium to speak, the teleprompter stops. And when it does get going again, it's intermittent. I know I don't want it to sound trivial here, but it seems to me, what's going on here?
The perfect word you used was the moment. It wasn't before, it wasn't after, it was the moment, and twice. So that doesn't sound like an accident. It sounds like more of the same thing that we get from the left. You know, the whole Russia hoax, what happened the moment that Trump got elected, the moment he came into office. All these things are not happenstance, they're not accidental. They're what happens when you're dealing with socialism and they don't win politically, as in the last election. They don't win economically, as with the Green New Deal. They don't win culturally, as with this Jimmy Kimmel windbag, who has no ratings. When you're not winning on those fields, socialism becomes like a spoiled brat and acts out in the manner of that escalator, or acts out as in, you know, violence in cities and burning them down and assassinating people. This is how socialism acts out.
One other question here. And given the speech And even prior to that speech, there were several articles floating around yesterday about the United States getting out of the UN. But the UN now has clearly proven itself to be impotent. I mean, they haven't done anything that advanced their original charter. Do you think it's done?
I think that statement is very true, Perry. They haven't. Um, I always thought that the United Nations ought to be of nations united. So you're either for the rights of man, as espoused in this country, as espoused in France, where it didn't succeed to the degree that it did here, and that those nations should be united against what? Against the tyranny that we're seeing in states like Russia, China, and Iran. Right?
Yeah.
That should be the uniting basis. United economies, united politics, united ideologies. The United Nations has largely been a redistribution station for countries wanting to fund things like Hamas. And why would you ever do so?
You mentioned it briefly, and I only want to talk about it briefly, but Jimmy Kimmel was restored to the airways yesterday. Reading the transcript of his show a little bit, there's obviously no apology, no nothing. But what was also interesting from the broadcast side of things, and that's what I was looking at, when you take Netstar and you take Sinclair, representing close to 40 ABC affiliates saying, no, we're not going to run the show, it brings into the picture network affiliation agreement breaching. Now, ABC is a content provider. They do own some stations, but they're a content provider. Those who are network affiliates are usually privately owned, like Netstar or with Sinclair, and they decided not to carry it, so they breached their contract. We're seeing a new day in broadcasting.
I don't know about breach of contract because I haven't read the contract, but the fact is that's democracy in action. They're calling it a suppression of the First Amendment on the left. The fact is, though Sinclair and Netstar are bringing forward a product, they provide a product. Nobody has to provide a product by law. And if they find the product offensive, they have no obligation to provide it. So it is actually democracy in action. It's free enterprise, isn't it, Perry?
Yeah.
The consumer decides what they're going to buy. And that is Sinclair saying to Disney, look, I don't want this content. I know you're offering it to me. I don't want it. My people, the people who watch this program, who sponsor our sponsors, who consume their product, don't want to see this guy because he's a lying windbag.
Well, yeah.
So I believe it's democracy in action.
And more of that came out last night. It's going to be interesting when he gets dropped for the second time. It's heading in that road. There's no numbers there. Okay, well,
yes.
We'll wait to see that. I want to come over to your response to Charlie Cook's memorial service. And I bring this up because 100,000 people got in, 20,000 went to a building next to it, 80,000 were turned away, and the analytics came out, 100 million people watched it online. What's that tell you, Richard?
Well, it speaks well of America and what Charlie Kirk espoused. He espoused our original principles, which are, that's the foundation of the book, The DNA of Democracy. It's a celebration of freedom, the rights of the individual, rights of property, representative government, Judeo-Christian foundations. These are all wonderful systems that came together in the founding of our country, and they call it a miracle at Philadelphia when they refer to the Constitution, and it was. And we have a unique founding that's been beneficial not only to the people of our country, but to all the world who replicate those principles. And I think 100 million people viewing that was a remarkable number. I mean, what do you think of Jimmy Kimmel when you hear that number?
No, it's crazy. I want to read you something. We put out this. I don't know if you can see that where you are. We put out
Yes,
this
I can.
this devotional called "The Word for You Today." I sit on the international board of this. We print about 48 million of these worldwide a quarter.
Wonderful.
Today, 11
Yeah.
million people read this in China. But I want to read you this. The bottom one of today is on the top of the Statue of Liberty is a crown with 7 spikes depicting the 7 seas and the 7 continents, meaning wherever you are, you can come to America. At the bottom of the statue is a broken chain, meaning you can come to America and find freedom. But when you come, you must agree to honor the rules and the govern of the relationship.
Right.
We need to be reminded
Right.
of that.
Yes, yes, you cannot come to this country and then fight against its foundations. I mean, that's why come here and do that when you can be in Somalia and live in a country you're trying to create here.
Yeah. It's crazy. One other thing, there was a report yesterday that 54% of the liberals in this country and 40% of the registered Democrats thought that Charlie Kirk's assassination was understandable.
I find that reprehensible, and I really, that's a shocking number to me and speaks to, I think, Perry, you'll agree, it speaks to the lack of education in this country. And of course, the Democrat Party have been in charge of that since the mid 1960s. They have had a monopoly on the education of this country. And that shows a very, not just a poorly educated population, but a morally shallow one.
Yeah, I question this, and I say it respectfully, but you wonder how can you look at somebody being gunned down, cold murder, live on national television,
in front of his wife and kids,
and
in front of his children,
and say to yourself, it's understandable. I mean, it has to be soulless.
But it goes back to where the conversation started. When they don't achieve what they want politically, and this is historical, Perry. This goes back to the Bolsheviks. It goes back to the Maoists, to Mussolini and Hitler. When they don't get what they want politically, when they don't get it economically, when they don't get it culturally or educationally, they attempt to do so through violence, and find that to be an understandable method. Let's use their language. Whereas it's not. Our social compact, our Constitution, is all about how to reconcile our society without violence. Doing so, as Charlie was trying, through ideas and the exposition of one's argument, instead of with a gun.
Okay. Let me ask you one other quick question. Take a break because I have a big question on the other side of the break. Also this week, the president and RFK Jr. had the news conference in the White House, basically saying Tylenol and other drugs that carry that kind of ingredients can be traced to autism. This is a big deal, and it is also an attack on Big Pharma. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the finding is remarkable, and I mean, acetaminophen. I mean, how general is that? And if the findings are true, and given the new regime at HHS under RFK Jr., I have no reason not to believe that. And if it's true, we have a generation that was materially affected by a poisonous ingredient in an approved pharmacological product.
Well, I guess what's astonishing to this is there were 6 separate scientific researchers that sustained this report, and you got to ask yourself, why didn't they bring it up sooner?
Yeah, why wasn't that an FDA matter years ago? Why? No, I don't understand it. That's why you have an FDA.
Yeah. All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers, check out Richard's website, richardclyons.com, and certainly check out his trilogy on American government. And the last volume, Volume 3, is out now, Passage Through the Shadows, and the one he had on behind him, the DNA. So check all that out. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and always honored to have with us Richard Lyons. He's an historian. He's written a series of trilogy books on the American government. The latest volume is now A Passage Through the Shadows. Behind him, there's a picture of the cover of that book. Behind him is also the picture of the DNA of democracy. Richard, they can get these just about anywhere?
Yes, they're offered as a series on Amazon. You can get a price break for it. But it's also at any retail outlet that you would ask for it, or on my website, I have a little shop.
All right. I'm just kind of curious. You write these as a trilogy and not a political commentary. What's behind that?
Well, because each volume serves a different purpose. The first volume is the how and why our government was created. In other words, the DNA of which it was born. Because some people question how our country was born. They consider we have a living constitution, when our founders considered it the order of the ages. The left thinks it's the order of the day, and they can change it whenever they like. And in fact, Volume 2, Shadows of the Acropolis, is how the Democrats, since they became progressives during the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, and for the last 100 years have been changing our Constitution, mainly through the unenumerated power of the administrative state, have taken our country from being the constitutional republic it was, and concentrating more and more power in Washington, D.C., and how that affects every citizen in this country. Volume 3 is a series of articles I've been writing for the last 18 months, which goes through the battlegrounds that we're on, whether it's institutionally in Washington, whether it's in the education of this country, whether it's in the battle against faith in this country. So these are each distinct volumes, but they all lend to the general concept, how and why we were founded, how and why we're now governed, and where we are as a country. It's educational.
Beautiful. All right, check it out online. Also check out Richard's website, richardclyons.com. Richard, it appears to me that the left, the Democrats, have a leak now in all 4 tires.
We can only pray that that's true, Barry. Let's hope that damn jalopy gets off the road.
Well, it appears. It really does. I mean, they don't know how to deal with it, and they still are pedal to the metal. But the problem is they seem to have a leak in all 4 tires. The pushback, and especially with this administration, is intensifying that.
No, and this goes to what we began the conversation with. Socialism got so far down the road that it became painful to our economy generally through the regulatory and tax regime that liberalism demands. It happened first right after the 1960s, after the Great Society was implemented. And then during Nixon's presidency, he actually went full socialism with price and wage controls, showing the damage socialism does to a country. And that ended up in the inflation that we experienced that only Ronald Reagan turned aside. So when you saw the Biden administration, the inflation of 20% in a couple of years that took away people's savings, that's the expression of socialism in our country. And Trump driving it back, driving down taxes, driving back regulation, freeing free enterprise to produce the fruits that it always does when not taken by the Democratic left for its programs, endless programs, endless agencies. When you get the government out of the economy and out of people's lives, people have more prosperity and more freedom.
Well said. All right, I want to come back to something that happened yesterday as well. And the president, excuse me, has seemingly done a 180-degree turn when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. And as you know, Russia has been provoking Europe with drones over Poland, now jets over Estonia, continuing to lob things inside Ukraine. He's not coming to the table, even though he said he would. So the president has done a 180-degree turn and saying Ukraine should get all of its land back. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it's a bold statement, and I have thought that true since they went into the Crimea under Obama. I mean, how was that allowed to happen? This goes back again to the Clinton administration when after the wall fell in Germany and Russia collapsed. The U.S. gave guarantees to Ukraine that if they were the third largest nuclear power at the time, because all of the Soviet facilities were in Ukraine, right? Mm-hmm. If we told them, if you give up your nuclear weapons, we will guarantee the security of and the physical integrity of your nation. And they said, okay, we'll do it. And they took their weaponry down. And this is what happened during Obama. He did not honor the security promise of the Clinton administration. He just let Russia go into Crimea and said, oh, terrible thing, isn't it? And then again under Biden, another Democrat presidency, they took more of Crimea knowing Biden wouldn't lift a foot, or whoever was president at the time. I think Obama was president during the Biden presidency. And so we're at a point where, Russia is not even responding to anything that Trump is saying. Every week they're killing 7,000 people and doing nothing in response to Trump's pleas for peace. So yeah, it's about time they were told, we'll take it all back. You won't come to the table, we'll take it all back.
A couple other things quickly here. It has taken 3 years for them not to win this war, which shows a lack of sophistication in their military. And when they were seen on the ground in Ukraine, they seemed to be totally inept with very poor equipment. And don't you think this also has to have a response to China and India doing business with Russia? So if the president's going to get involved here, he's calling NATO to come in, will come in, but he also has, pardon the pun, the trump card to put pressure on China and India not to do business with Russia. Do you think that's going to come about?
Well, this is another thing in our topics today, Perry. The United Nations. Why does that exist?
Yeah.
It should exist to say if you're killing 7,000 people a week, it's wrong. And we will unite against you economically, which is what Trump is trying to do with Europe, trying to do with India and China. And to say, if you're going to fund this war any further, we're not going to be friends.
Okay. What do you think this means? I mean, do you think we're all of a sudden more money is going to go to Ukraine without accountability? I mean, how is this going to be held here?
No, I think they have an architecture whereby we will send weapons to Europe that they will purchase and supply to Ukraine. That's the point now. But what people are not realizing is the tremendous drain on military-age men in Russia that this war has cost. It is why they're bringing in mercenaries from North Korea.
Okay.
And if we attack their economy further, I mean, how long are people going to put up with Putin?
Well, that's a good point. But the president is also putting pressure on NATO to get involved.
Yes, to the extent that they will say, Russia, we're not dealing with you any further economically. If you do flyovers in our territory, we will shoot them down. We are no longer going to be kind because you're being cruel.
I can't help but think that there is another possible motive here, and I want to say this carefully, but if we're going to go 100% behind Ukraine now, the offset would be maybe total control of the rare earth materials in that country.
Well, again, they have an agreement that we have rights to purchase rare earths from Ukraine, and I think that is a sufficient economic tie. I don't know that a larger one helps, but what we don't want, I don't think, and this is my thinking, I don't think the Trump administration wants to get involved in the war in Ukraine. It would be sufficient if everyone agreed in Europe that is a part of NATO not to deal with Russia and buy any oil whatsoever. If India wants to do business with the United States and have favorable trade agreements with the United States, they should not fund Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just point blank. And if you put enough pressure that way, there will be no need for boots on the ground.
Yeah. By the way, the president did say that to the prime minister there in the UK, the new one, and saying, you know, you guys got to buck up and not buy the oil. It looks like France might be on board with that because France is very pro-Ukraine. So if they can convince some of the larger, Germany may even be on board with that. But the point being is the one that you've just made. If Europe stops buying oil, the president puts sanctions and tariffs on India and China, Russia collapses. Unfortunately,
it becomes an empty gas station.
Yeah.
It's an empty gas station.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, good to see you, friend. Thanks for your time. I always value it. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to richardclyons.com is the website, and check out his trilogy. The volume 3 now is out, Passage Through the Shadows. I think it's basically, look, 3 books of the U.S. history right up to the current times. Good stuff. Thank you, Richard. God bless your friend. Stay in the fight.
No, thank you, Perry. You too. Wonderful to be with you.
Thank you.